Some horror films, or films in general, end on a perfect note, where the story wraps up neatly and there's nothing left to be said. Others have a cliffhanger ending, hoping they get another chance at bat, but what they've given us so far was utter crap, so it never happens. Then there's, of course, the films that get sequels that really didn't need one. It's just about the paycheck. But what about those rare films that set up something interesting and leave room for expansion that so far have been left to collect dust? Before we begin, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Every new sub helps us achieve our goal and keeps us motivated to create new content. With that being said, I'm your host, Jamie, and here are 10 more horror films that deserve sequels. Number 1, Us. Jordan Peele released his highly anticipated sophomore outing, Us, in 2019, which was met with rave reviews and would go on to be another commercial success for the talented writer and director. There definitely was no sign of a slump in this horror film, as it came with a smart script, a bold aesthetic, and wonderful performances. One in particular came from Academy Award-winning actress Lupita Nyong'o, who was honestly robbed of an Oscar nomination for this film. However, Us sees a quiet suburban family, the Wilsons, vacationing at the wife, Adelaide's, or played by Nyong'o, childhood home in Santa Cruz. Peele takes a lot of old school approaches to horror by subtly placing unnerving things in a scene, or even configuring the camera in a way that's unsettling. Horror is bred through something familiar gone askew. The Wilsons become victims to a home invasion. The twist is that the perpetrators are their doppelgangers, a version of them known as the Tethered. They, as well as other Tethered, have ascended from the underground to kill their counterparts. If Us isn't the best allegory for two versions of America, I don't know what is. The film certainly reflects on a divided and violent America, but also a whole facet of the country that has gone completely ignored. The film ends with the Tethered taking over the earth, and I want a sequel just to see how Jordan Peele approaches a whole different kind of apocalypse-like movie. What does he see a new world look like when those who were subjugated now are at the top of the hierarchy? You can witness Us on Prime, Fandango, and Google Play. Number 2, Evil Dead Rise. Evil Dead Rise is a standalone film in the Evil Dead series. It's produced by original creator and director Sam Raimi, as well as Bruce Campbell, best known for playing Ash in the original films and TV series. The story revolves around a single mother and her child living a typical mundane day, when her sister comes to visit, and soon after, all hell breaks loose. Evil Dead Rise hints that it's connected to the original series, as well as director Fede Alvarez's 2013 reboot, which holds the record for most fake blood used in any film, a reeling 50,000 gallons. Evil Dead Rise has plenty of nods to the rest of the franchise as well, and it was confirmed by director Lee Cronin that all 5 Evil Dead films are in the same universe. The film brings the franchise out of the cabin in the woods setting and into an apartment complex, enabling the filmmakers to explore new ways to invoke tension and horror. The atmosphere is claustrophobic and unnerving, and much like its predecessors, it contains copious amounts of brutal, over-the-top gore. In the case of Evil Dead Rise, it allegedly used about 6,500 gallons of fake blood, which is still an insane amount. The signature Evil Dead style is all there, with intense dramatic visuals and makeup. Neither Alvarez nor Cronin have been able to fully emulate Raimi's kinetic camera style, though. The film also tries to keep its distance from the campier aspects of the series. Evil Dead Rise has a fairly tight script that is cohered together by themes of motherhood, with its ups, downs, and challenges. Although the exploration of these themes is often buried under carnage, which is admittedly what we were all here for anyway, Alyssa Sutherland, who plays the mother and lead Deadite, gives a poignant performance as a mother and a deliriously delicious performance as a Deadite. Her naturally striking facial features are only highlighted by the macabre makeup and prosthetics adorning her. Technically, we are getting a standalone sequel to this called Evil Dead Burn, but it would be great to see a direct sequel as to what happens at the lake, or even more about the fallout of the apartment complex. What if Ash and Mia showed up too? However, Evil Dead Rise is a gloriously gory, surprisingly sentimental treat for Evil Dead and horror fans alike. So pop on over to Max, Sling, Google Play, Tubi, Fandango, and Prime to check it out. Number 3, Phantoms. Director Joe Chappelle, no relation to Dave Chappelle, was primarily known for one of the subpar Halloween sequels, Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, before directing Phantoms. Chappelle, Joe, not Dave, would find his footing in television working as a director and co-producer on shows like HBO's award-winning hit series The Wire. In 1998, he would helm the horror sci-fi Phantoms, written by suspense author Dean Koontz. And it is based on Koontz's own 1983 novel of the same name. Now, I've personally never read any Koontz, but the film does not reflect well on him. Phantoms revolves around a resort town in Colorado where people keep seemingly getting possessed and killed by mysterious entities. The film is led by Ben Affleck playing Sheriff Bryce Hammond, who leads the survival of who's left of the town's people. Phantoms may not be great, but it screams 90s nostalgia. It even co-stars Rose McGowan and Liev Schreiber. The film has a lot of sequel potential to explore the Lovecraftian aspects of the novel. Plus, we know the monster is still at large. Perhaps getting Guillermo del Toro involved in a Phantoms follow-up? For now, you can stream the original Phantoms on Pluto, Prime, Google Play, and Fandango. Number 4, 13 Ghosts. The 2001 remake of William Castle's 1960 13 Ghosts has grown quite a fan base over the years. However, I'm going to be perfectly candid, this is not a good film. Warner Bros. Should have put more money into its script instead of its production design. Although, I wish they were willing to fork over $43 million on a horror production now, even if that wasn't adjusted for inflation. That being said, 13 Ghosts had some bright spots. The cast for one, especially the ultra-talented Matthew Lillard, an Emmy-winning actor from Monk, Tony Shalhoub, who is quite good as a sympathetic father. However, for me, he'll always be Jeebs in Men in Black. 13 Ghosts follows widowed father Arthur, played by Shalhoub, who's struggling with the recent loss of his wife, as well are his children. His daughter Kathy is a high schooler, played by the illustrious Shannon Elizabeth, who my 90s heart always likes to see. The young son Alex seems to have a fondness for the macabre. In 13 Ghosts, Arthur receives a virtual will from his recently deceased eccentric Uncle Cyrus. In it, he inherits his large, secluded estate. What the family didn't know is that Cyrus hunted and captured ghosts. Now, I don't know if it was at the behest of the studio or director, but editors really did a hack job that really disrupted the flow and undermined the film's spook factor. I really do love this funhouse concept of being trapped in a mansion with all sorts of different kinds of ghosts. Warner Bros. Should make a big budget horror bonanza with a sequel. Get a good crew together. Bring back the survivors of 13 Ghosts. Add some scream queens and kings to the cast. And get creative. But for now, you can enjoy the original on Prime, Google Play, and Fandango. Number 5, Cloverfield. Years after the Blair Witch Project introduced mainstream audiences to the found footage film, and a year before Paranormal Activity paved the way for a brief return to the subgenre, J.J. Abrams produced the 2008 sci-fi horror gem Cloverfield. In the wake of cell phone cameras and easily accessible portable home camcorders, a gritty cinematic approach to the giant monster movie is born. By the 2020s, the visuals in Cloverfield are definitely rough, but the lo-fi aesthetic and limited camera movement ground this movie more so than the characters. The guerrilla-style camera work only adds mystery and tension to an already unnerving atmosphere. The clever and well-executed narrative makes up for the film's shortfalls in character. The unease is constant in the film, and being perpetually eye level, often at ground level perspectives, as a giant creature attacks, makes the whole experience even more palpable. After all, Cloverfield is a horror film first. Now, Cloverfield has had spin-offs. The brilliant 10 Cloverfield Lane, which has almost entirely nothing to do with the giant aliens and the lackluster. Cloverfield Paradox also is quite removed from the original film. A straight Cloverfield 2 sequel that either deals with the fallout of the original or simply starts where it left off is what I'd personally like to see. So for now, you can catch the epic monster destruction on Pluto, AMC Plus, Philo, Google Play, and Prime. Number 6, Sinister. 2012's Sinister continued the haunted house genre's winning streak, as well as producer Jason Blum's. Director Scott Derrickson has come a long way from 2000's straight-to-video Hellraiser Inferno. He's also gone on to direct a MCU fave, Doctor Strange, and the Oscar-worthy but Academy-snubbed The Black Phone. Derrickson co-wrote and helmed Sinister, and it was a benchmark film for him and for horror. It's considered the scariest film according to science, as people who watched it, heart rates would hit 135 beats per minute, which equates to a rigorous exercise for some. It's understandable, as this Ethan Hawke-led film evokes an atmosphere of unease and Bagel, the demon that haunts the home. It's diabolically unnerving. It helps that Derrickson, much like James Wan, has a knack for creating creepy scare sequences. Sinister follows true crime writer Ellison Oswald, played by Hawke, who's had a decade-long dry spell in the writing department. It's very Stephen King, who actually happened to love this film. Ellison finds Super 8 films in his attics that contain disturbing footage. He becomes obsessed with solving the murders he sees. And before you say, hey, Sinister already has a sequel, don't worry, I'm not going to say it sucks. We're just going to pretend it doesn't exist. No, we don't do that because we aren't lazy. I still want to see a more standalone Sinister 3. There have been rumblings of an Insidious Sinister crossover for years. In a crossover sequel, the paranormal investigation company Paranormal Sightings from Insidious could investigate someone haunted by this demon. They could also introduce a new psychic medium, played by a horror veteran like Heather Langenkamp, aka Nancy, the final girl from A Nightmare on Elm Street. They could even have said team consult with Professor Jonas from Sinister. But for now, you can get that heart rate up and watch Sinister over on Max, Prime, Sling, Google Play, and Fandango. Number 7, It Follows. A decade ago, It Follows was released in theaters and helped revitalize what we now know as elevated horror. The film's brilliance lies in its simplicity. The stellar cast, the sublime script, the striking cinematography, and the nerve-wrackingly beautiful score all contribute to this sleek and effective thriller. In It Follows, there is a creature that slowly but ruthlessly stalks a victim until they are dead. The only way to get out of it, or pass it on, is through sex. It Follows is often viewed as a well-crafted, albeit blunt allegory for STDs. But it also conveys the pervasiveness unease that comes with any chronic diseases. Whoever has said creature after them will be gradually but fervently stalked by whatever it is until said person is dead. Even if the carrier passes the creature on, the creature can still come back around to them if a new carrier dies. Either way, any survivor will live with dread and paranoia because the creature can look like anyone, living or dead. If that sounds familiar, 2022's Smile did take this concept and also used it quite effectively. While the characters in It Follows do cause harm to it by shooting it and electrocuting it, it's evidently extremely powerful and seemingly immortal. It Follows never reveals said entity as supernatural, and I hope it's kept that way. Luckily, we will be getting an It Follows follow-up, They Follow. It may give us some more insight on the creatures. For now, the idea that an unseen creature, possibly one that is native to Earth, just ancient, and the actual top of the food chain is far more intriguing. What we've seen in the first film is that it is stalwart in its ability to go undetected by the naked eye by everyone not infected. So don't drag your feet and watch It Follows on Max, Sling, Google Play, Fandango, and Prime. Number 8, Shaun of the Dead. The first film in what would become Edgar Wright's Cornetto trilogy, all which feature Simon Pegg and Nick Frost as the protagonists. 2004's horror comedy Shaun of the Dead only just celebrated its 20th anniversary just last year. The film is a truly sublime parody of classic zombie films like George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead. Shaun of the Dead has developed into a beloved cult classic. The filmmakers certainly committed to the authenticity of the zombie subgenre. The biting satire is just tip of the iceberg in this hilarious zombie gore fest. One of the many cool things about Shaun of the Dead is it could easily aesthetically fit into George A. Romero's Living Dead universe. Now this marks a shift in the parody genre, whereas the aesthetic would be intentionally cheaper looking that was being parodied. Edgar Wright and everyone behind the film are fans of the zombie subgenre, and it shows. Pegg and Frost have a wonderful dynamic, and their characters bring the funny as well as the pathos. If you don't care one way or another about the humor, Shaun of the Dead will still satiate your appetite for zombie mayhem. The film ends where zombies are sort of domesticated. So perhaps a sequel could riff on suburban life, only you coexist with zombies. Or the filmmakers could make it so that zombie domestication was a relative failure and Simon Pegg's character is some kind of survivalist like Michonne from The Walking Dead, and his zombie, Nick Frost, fight for him. However, you can watch Shaun of the Dead on Google Play, Prime, and Fandango. Number 9, Jennifer's Body. Jennifer's Body wasn't exactly commended upon release in 2009, but appreciation for the film has grown for this horror comedy over the years. I understand why this film would be off-putting. It does broach uncomfortable subjects, and the juxtaposition between horror and comedy in Jennifer's Body has a more jarring effect than a viewer might be comfortable with. There was also a lot of hype around the film at the time. Megan Fox was around her career apex, and scribe Diablo Cody had just won a screenwriting Oscar for Juno. Director Karen Kasuma has made an impression with her film debut, Girl Fight, in 2000. So movie buffs knew the bar was high on many points. Upon Jennifer's Body release, it didn't receive the praise or box office it was hoping for. Regardless, I've always had a soft spot for the film. It may even be more topical today. Not only have some of its quips and imagery become iconic, but it's laced with underappreciated subtleties and creepiness. And whether or not you like Megan Fox as an actress, her screen presence is undeniable. I'd love to see a sequel with all the cast and crew returning. A post Me Too Jennifer's Body follow-up could be something grisly and beautiful. So check out Jennifer's Body on Hulu, Disney+, Prime, Google Play, Apple TV, or Fandango. Number 10, Freaky. Freaky's director Stephen Landon wrote and directed this fun and amusing modern slasher. And it's basically Freaky Friday with a slasher twist. Vince Vaughn plays a serial killer, aka The Butcher, and Katherine Newton plays the would-be final girl, Millie. But the two switch bodies. Both actors really play up the premise, and they are an absolute delight on screen. Katherine Newton in recent years has risen to the ranks of a modern scream queen thanks to her roles in Lisa Frankenstein and Abigail. Freaky was released to critical acclaim in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, so it didn't have the chance to earn sequel incentivizing box office numbers. In spite of limited release in October of 2020 and a raging pandemic, it grossed a meager $18 million globally, but on a $6 million budget, so it made a small profit. And this isn't including what it earned on demand in December, which I'm pretty sure I paid to see fairly quickly. Regardless, the movie leaves it open as the butcher is still alive. There's a lot of possibilities, and producer Jason Blum even hinted at the possibility of a Happy Death Day and Freaky crossover. I'd love to see that chaos if Stephen Landon is involved. The logical follow-up should be called Freakier and have the body swap between the butcher, Millie, and maybe one of her friends. Or a second killer is added and the two killers swap bodies with Millie and her friend. But for now, you can see Freaky on Freevee, Prime, Google Play, and Fandango. Thanks for checking out the video. Did we leave any films off the list? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to tap that bell icon to stay up to date with our latest releases. You can reach out to us on Twitter or X at Studios Fat, or chat with us on Discord, linked below. We're also now on Blue Sky. You can find us at studiosfat.bsky.social, which will also link below. If you're really enjoying our content and want to help support us, click that join button for exclusive content, rewards, and perks. Make sure to check out our very own merch store located at fatninja.shop. All proceeds go towards our next film project, so we'd greatly appreciate it. I've been your host, Jamie. Thanks again and take care.